Hello, so we are happy to be on the big stage to present GeoNetwork, state of the art. So what's new for the last year in the community and what is the vision and the statement of the project? So how can I switch to the next page? Okay, maybe here. I don't have page down, I just have a mouse. Okay. So me, I'm Florent Gravin. I work at Camp to Camp, and I'm a PSC chair at GeoNetwork, and I give the hand to GeoNetwork's father.
I'm Jeroen Ticheler, director of GeoCut and founder of GeoNetwork Project, and we go on from here.
So I will click. C'est with the
I don't know. So we'll talk about the metadata catalog GeoNetwork, which is becoming more and more full data management tool with lots of capabilities. But for those who don't know, we have a very short introduction. What is GeoNetwork? It's a comprehensive metadata editing and management tool, catalog application. And you can say it's the glue in a spatial data infrastructure. It consists of several building blocks, and you can look at this from all kind of angles, but the most important are ISO TC211 geospatial standards, OGC standards, and we're introducing more and more open data standards as well. The history, very brief. It was started by myself in 2000 when I was working at the United Nations. And we have a code and issues maintained on GitHub. There's around 1,000 downloads per month. This is probably nothing in comparison to some desktop GIS software, but for a catalog software, it's considerable. We have a very active global developer community. It's a relatively small community, but a very large user community that actually implement the catalog. And I think a very important indication of the quality of the software is that it's used by over 80% of the European national Inspire catalogs. And currently it's also used as the backend of the Inspire European catalog. Just a screenshot of the Dutch National Geo Registry running on GeoNetwork, where all the geospatial data of the Netherlands comes together and also is fed into the European Inspire portal. As I said, it has a very powerful metadata editor with lots of options, validation options, metadata profile options, templating options, and options to add data and deploy data. Has a very extensive administrative interface where you can actually see most of the things through a web interface. There's obviously also things that you can see through command line or other ways, but through the user interface, there's a lot of things that you can do immediately. There's been an OSGeo project since 2007. There was, off the top of my head, I'm actually not quite sure. It could be a year earlier or later, but it was very early in the OSGeo process. There's a project steering committee. We have 7 members, listed on the right side. We have a monthly meeting to discuss things that are going on, to discuss if we have presentations, if we have issues with code, with releases, and so on. So where are we now? We maintain a long-term supported version on GitHub, version 3.12.10 currently. It's mainly sustained through our GeoCut Enterprise product. But we make sure that all the changes that happened for that enterprise product feed back into the 3.x release. And currently we are stabilizing on 4.2 for the latest version that includes Elasticsearch as a backend system for indexing and so on. Now things change, right? Oops. Oh, I'm touching something. Okay. Here it's you, huh? Yeah.
Yes, so what made GeoNetwork really famous is abilities to implement the standards. So both OGC standards, so in metadata world is CSW and OGC API records, and ISO standards for really requirements about the metadata. What is important, would like to focus is the fact that there is all the OGC API stuff, features, records, and so on, and GeoNetwork is already able, already implements the OGC records features. So there is a microservices for that, which called OGC API records. So we are compliant, and during the last sprints, we are more invested into the OGC community. So we went to different code sprints to improve the implementation of the standards. And the last one in Buchini, we were with the OGC API records teams, and we were just discussing together because actually it's almost the first times that those community meet, and it was great to exchange about their use cases, like trying to be compatible with the stacks things, the fact that the API records comes along with the OGC API features, and we discussed different implementation things and different standard things. And the GeoNetwork community brought a new proposal for the facets that has to be discussed this week. So we are compliant to this, yes, to this specification for the part 1 core draft, which should be released in the summer. And we have different outputs from this API, HTML, ISO, but also DCAT, RSS for the whole platform, turtle and schema.org. And we have done a focus on exporting the whole catalog as DCAT, while before it was just one metadata. So we are compliant with government data portals or open data portals. And for sure, we support the directive, Inspire directive, which I don't know if it's still a trend or fashion to be Inspire compliant.
Yeah, for Inspire, one of the things that I indicated is that we have been working on a project with JRC, a European Union, to make GeoNetwork the backend of the Inspire Geoportal. And for this, we have developed a number of standard components that can be installed together with GeoNetwork. And that system has been in operation since last December. The last reporting period has made use of those capacities of those new components of GeoNetwork. This very brief architecture of that. It's the GeoNetwork core application, and then there's a couple of separate service applications that retrieve metadata from the national endpoints, do a link checking process, ingest the results into the catalog, and make it available to member countries and to, in the end, the general users. So there's a harvesting console, which is probably the most visible for the member countries, where they configure their endpoint and have a new CSW harvester process that is able to use large capacities of metadata. The results can then be seen, and the log of each different harvest process is visible. And that can be used to investigate where problems are in services metadata that is provided by a member country. So it includes statistics about those metadata, about the date of the harvesting, the number of metadata records, number of different type of data or services that are retrieved, what can be downloaded, is it actually downloadable, is it viewable, and so on. And then you can basically dive into those details, which one failed, which one are successful, and that is used by countries to actually point to services that are not compliant or not functional. Other developments that happened over the last year in GeoNetwork 4, there's a lot of improvements to make web accessibility better in the UI. There's a lot of security and upgrade of libraries that happened. Open API support for documentation, and AngularJS update, Bootstrap upgrade. And currently there's a development for Java 11, and I think there's even a process starting to support Java 17. But those still need to be merged and need to be reviewed. Some of the latest features, there's the support for OAuth and OIDC bearer tokens. This has been tested with Azure Active Directory and with Keycloak with an Azure Active Directory in the back, and a lot of stability improvement on the main branch.
Yes, okay, thank you, Jeroen. So, as Jeroen demonstrated with the GRC thing and everything, GeoNetwork is quite a powerful engine to process metadata. But we know that there are some limitations and maybe some a move to do to embrace the new use cases, to embrace the open data world, etc. So I will talk a bit about the vision that we are setting up with the community and with our customers and with our companies to see what GeoNetwork should look like in the future and how we are trying to turn it out. So first, what will be important is the user experience. Many people have some feedbacks about the usability of GeoNetwork, and this is something we really want to address. We are competing actually with open data world. So when open data came out with modern catalogs and softwares, it was kind of a competition for GeoNetwork. And I think that the user interface nowadays is kind of declining a bit. So we want to put the user in the middle of all the system. We want to address more modern use cases that, again, come from the open data world, like how to reuse the data, how to visualize the data. So put the data to be more data-centric than metadata-centric. Yes, and with all that will and that things that come around with all the data ecosystem and the data trend, I think we are moving slowly to be kind of a data platform. So yes, one thing that is really important is when the open data came out with different European legislation, government legislation, where there is like a scope for using open data, promoting open data in every country. And like all the organizations, the municipalities, the states, many organizations, they started to have their own open data catalog. And it was kind of something a bit not weird, but unpleasant, like to have two catalogs and to differentiate what is an open data to what is a geodata, because a geodata can be free and published, and an open data can be geo. So usually people, they started to have different catalogs and try to synchronize all those catalogs. But it appears to be painful to maintain in the long run. So the goal now is to be able to unify all of your data sets within GeoNetwork, because GeoNetwork is a powerful engine, and it could be even seen as an headless metadata catalog to just process, harvest, validate, and whatever manage the ISO complexity, etc. So this is the move we want to help with, and we found some customers who found it the start of this move to be able to unify both open data and metadata world. For the user interface and the user experience thing, we already introduced the GeoNetwork-ui framework or project or library, which is within the GeoNetwork organization, and it's a project beside GeoNetwork, which is designed to really help the user using GeoNetwork and to ease data maintainers, data providers to deal with metadata. We all know that metadata can be painful, and we want to integrate it very seamlessly in the workflow of just treating and dealing with data. So what is GeoNetwork-ui? In few words, it's a project that just help to move from old-fashioned SDI, like based maybe on geo server administration, which is kind of expert mode, GeoNetwork editing, which is kind of expert as well, and we try to add facades in front of that to hide the complexity of all this system. So in terms of technology, it's kind of a framework which helps you to quickly create components, application, to export them as web components, to integrate them in third-party websites. So it's all of JavaScript things to really provide new interfaces. So it's how we see the ecosystem of GeoNetwork right now. So we used to have a huge monolith, which is the core, and we try to enlighten the core and move some of the features to microservices when it's backend services. For instance, the OGC API records or indexing. We try to have a constellation of services, and we have the user